So that's when I actually started setting my sights on Ultraman to begin with. And I found your podcast, and I was listening from the very beginning on various training runs for a while. And I would say it's really been part of my training and getting embedded into the Ultraman mantra and what it really encapsulates. And I think you've done a great job promoting the event itself and what it really, stands behind. So you've been part of my journey from the very beginning, really.
You're listening to 515, the Ultra Podcast, the show that invites you into the lives of people who make up the Ultra family. Here's your host for these conversations, Larry Ryan.
Hey, thanks, MJ. Unfortunately, Steve King was unavailable for this Ultraman Florida preview episode, but Jen McVeay is here with a stand-in Steve. And following the preview, I have an athlete in profile for the race. Stick around for that too. Just a quick note before we start this preview. This year, I am expanding the 515 podcast media to YouTube. Come check us out there and make sure to subscribe. There are going to be some live broadcasts and videos of podcast conversations. Just another way to reach out to the Ultra fam. And now, today's show. Joining me today on the podcast, I have two guests, and we're going to do a special Ultraman Florida preview. First up on the podcast today is race director Jen McVeay. Hey, Jen, how's it going?
Hi, Larry. Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for coming and bringing us the information about your race and your athletes.
Thanks for having me.
So it's been a while since you've been on, so just a couple of quick catch-up questions. Let's find out what you've been doing. What have you been up to? Have you had any good travels with your travel company?
Yeah, I've been traveling a lot since we last spoke. I go to Africa every year for anywhere from 3 to 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really cool because I get to do my wildlife photography down there. I've been on several cruises. The travel agent side gig is good to me, and I get lots of free cruises, so that's pretty fun.
Nice. What's been your favorite cruise?
Oh gosh. I did a Canada fall colors one that was super cool.
Oh.
That went to several different ports up in the Northeast. Started in Quebec City and ended in New Jersey, Newark.
Oh, nice. So up the Gulf of St. Lawrence and back down around the east side of the Atlantic. Excellent.
Yep, Prince Edward Island. Lots of little islands up there. Yeah, it was cool.
Oh, right on. Yeah. And the photography, you're still taking lots of pictures?
Yep, still taking lots of pictures. Doing several night photography workshops every year with my friends over at National Parks at Night. They put on workshops and take us to really cool places, mostly national parks, obviously. But yeah, so I just did Death Valley, off the beaten path kind of Death Valley stuff.
Ooh.
So that was cool. And this year I'm going to be heading out to North Cascades, which is one of the least visited national parks in the country, which is nice when you're trying to take pictures. There's nobody around.
Is that in Washington?
Yeah, it's in Washington. Actually, it's super close to you. It's the very, very, very top of Washington. It's probably only an hour or two from your house.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to be hitting Tetons and Yellowstone. And then in the winter, I'm going to be hitting Monument Valley during a meteor shower. So that's really going to be cool.
Excellent timing.
Yeah.
No, right on. And what about the other races that you're involved with? What's been going on there? Tell us about those.
Oh my gosh. I just finished up with Hurt 100, which is one of the top 10 hardest trail runs in the world. That's on my island of Oahu.
Mm-hmm.
So that was, a good 36 hours of no sleep, but lots of fun. And I'm in charge of several different things for her. So it was a busy couple of weeks in January.
Yeah.
And then I was at Worlds out on the Big Island in over Thanksgiving weekend in November.
Yeah, tell us
And
about what
then,
your thoughts on that epic race and showdown that happened
oh
there.
my gosh, that was so cool to see that. I'm so glad I was there because the females just like crushed it. And it was so cool to see two moms come in first and second.
Yeah.
You know, absolutely amazing. I feel very, very, very lucky that I got to witness that. And they're really nice people. They're just
Yes.
super nice ladies. And so it was nice.
Yeah, yeah. I've had both of them on the podcast, and I really enjoyed speaking with them both. Just down to earth.
Yep,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah. Well, I've got you listed as somewhere in Arizona, USA. I'm suspecting that you might be out in your little adventure trailer. Where are you joining from today?
I'm in Phoenix. I'm actually not in the farmhouse on wheels.
Oh, the farmhouse on wheels.
Dog.
That's what you call it.
Yeah, the farmhouse on wheels. I'm actually dog sitting for my college besties who are on my Arizona staff. So they're on a big Antarctica adventure. So I'm in charge of the dogs for a week.
Oh, all right.
And
Well,
yep, and from here I'm heading to Florida for a little bit of race stuff.
Yeah, so we got the race coming up February 14th to the 16th. Who do you got helping you out over on that one? I saw a lot of your regular peeps are doing some crewing. So what kind of help you got on the staff on this one?
Yeah, several of my staff are crewing, and I'm like, hey, wait, what's going on here? A certain athlete took one and was trying to take two. Actually, he took two. Hmm. But most of the regular staff is going to be their staffing. We are going to be missing one who couldn't. She has a new job, Nicole. Shout out to Nicole. She couldn't get down here for the race because her job's too new. So hopefully we'll get her back next year. But otherwise, it's the same usual cast of characters behind the scenes at Ultraman Florida. It's just an awesome staff. We have so much fun, and everybody works really hard, but we also play really, really hard behind the scenes.
Yeah, yeah. And do you have any updates to the courses this year, or did you have to change anything for permitting or anything like that?
We did slightly change it. We're going back to start at Victory Point, where we started a few years ago. And that area it was caught up in a lawsuit for a few years because the town didn't actually own the area and blah, blah, blah. But it's all cleared up now. So we're back at Victory Point, which was actually built for triathlon. So I love that area. So it's only, a couple miles down from where we were last year at Waterfront Park. So the course is almost identical, just a little bit of changes for the start finish to try to get my mileage back to being exactly right. So that's what I was working on all day today. It was maps.
Those pesky things that you have to update right up into the last second.
Yep, exactly.
Including the information that comes in from your athletes that we'll be talking about.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, I did mention off the top that we do have two guests for this special update. So I should probably introduce our other guest who's been sitting in the wings. And joining us today is a former Florida champion and Arizona champion, Steve Keller. Welcome back.
Hello, Larry. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be back. It's been a few years since I've been on the podcast, but thank you.
Yeah, the first time you came on, we were talking to you as the athlete in profile for the inaugural Ultraman Arizona. That was after your Florida victory, I believe.
Yep. That was back in 2022 for the inaugural and one not to forget, Ultraman Arizona.
And just for the listener, can you give us your Ultraman background? What are the races you completed and podiumed on? Because you always seem to get on the podium.
Yeah. I'm very fortunate to always have a good crew that keeps me going, keeps me fast out there. So to date, I've done 5 Ultraman races. I've done Florida, 3 times now, Arizona once, and the World Champs. The World Champs was in 2022, as well as Arizona. And then my last race was Florida, which was in 2024, the last year's race.
Mm-hmm. And so what have you been up to as far as your own personal life in the time since we've also chatted? I know you're a veterinarian. I see that today you're joining us from the Bahamas. I don't know if that's a family vacation or you're off saving dolphins, what you're doing. Maybe you can fill us in.
Oh man, I feel like, calling from the Bahamas is definitely, it's not representative of the typical life that I live, but we just came here for a quick family vacation. It was centered around the fact that it's cold and winter break at home, and the kids were off school for a few days. But yeah, I mean, my day job is I'm a veterinarian and medical director of a small animal hospital in Virginia Beach. And I also am a coach for primarily ultra distance athletes, triathletes, runners. So since the last time we spoke, I've been putting a lot of time and passion into the coaching world. I only coach about 10 athletes at a time, but it allows me to really focus all my attention on each of those athletes. Several of them are Ultraman or future Ultraman. We'll be talking about a few of them lining up for Florida here in a few minutes. And, from a personal standpoint, I did Ultraman Florida back in February of 2024, which seems like forever ago. And then raced Challenge Roth in Germany over the summer, and then went and did it's a swim run adventure race called One Water in the Swedish archipelago, or the Stockholm archipelago, in August. Cool. So been a little bit of everywhere this past year, and hadn't really had my 2025 mapped out until the World's Championship went down in November. And I think you and I were both part of a group chat for Carrie Mandel, who was on your podcast. She had a great episode. And I think I got the juices flowing, and all the positive energy of having all the people who were on that group chat really got me thinking, maybe I want to come back and do another Ultraman this year.
Yeah. And so obviously you're going to come back to where it started for you and do Ultraman Florida. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. So the goal, I guess I should announce it here, is to do all of the Ultraman races in 1 year this year. So we're going to go from Florida to Arizona, and then Canada in the summer. And then there's a new race, Ultraman Mexico, that's in October.
Right.
And then we'll finish it up with Worlds in November. So there's been a very select few who have done 4 to 5 Ultraman within a 12-month window. Shane, he did 6 actually. Yeah. But the kind of spin on this is to do the 5 series in order in 1 calendar year. So that's the goal for 2025.
Oh, that's awesome. That's an incredible thing to reach for.
Can I chime in?
Yes, please, Jen.
When Steve first texted me about this idea, there were only 4 at the time.
Yeah.
And then and then we added a 5th, and he was like, well, okay, I guess I got to do 5.
Yeah. The original goal was to do 4, but if they're going to add another one, it's not like I can skip over that. So
no, of course not. Yeah. And congratulations to Van Sanchez. who is bringing that race to Mexico, the Ultraman branded race to Mexico. And I know he's going to be at the race as well, crewing. So we'll maybe chat about him in a few minutes. But congratulations to you, Van. I have put my feelers out to him to get him on to come and talk about that. And hopefully that's going to happen real soon as well.
Yeah, Van's a great guy. He's a great race director. I think he'll be a really good representation of the Ultraman brand. And he totally gets Aloha Ohana Kopua. He coaches athletes. He brings them to our races. He loves everything about it. And it's nice to have someone who he already gets it. He already knows, you know? And so I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be super cool to have a new event. I can't wait to see the terrain. I haven't looked at profiles, so.
We have had people on that have raced it and talked about it, and he's obviously come on and done previews with me as well and talked about those race profiles. So people that might be considering going down to Zacatecas this year or the next year in order to do part of this Ultraman series now, go back into the history of the podcast and look for the ones with Van Sanchez, and they're all available for free, and you get all the info that you need. But let's get back on to Florida here. Let's start talking about your race, Jen. Let's go through the racers that we have this year coming, and we'll try and hit on most, if not all of them, a little bit. I know some people have a little more information available to talk about, so that makes it a bit easier. But let's do a little rundown, maybe by age group, as we've done in the past. I'll let you start us off, and then Steve, I know you know a lot of these people. Jump in and give us some information when you know it, and I've got a few notes that I'll try and share as well.
Awesome.
Will do.
In our 20 to 29 category, we've got two youngsters. They're young to me. Jacob will be one of our youngest, perhaps the youngest ever. I have to look up birthdays. He's 20. And Jacob's from Atlanta, and that's a big challenge for a youngster like that to be doing this distance. Steve, you can chime in on that. Like, our average age is like 42, so 20 is way under our average age.
Yeah, it's definitely not typically a young person's sport. You tend to see majority of the athletes 40 or over, but it doesn't mean it can't be done. And you just have to lean on other people, I think, and the experience that that they can pass along, because there is some tactic for anybody who's doing an Ultraman for their first time. There's definitely some tactics to be successful and make sure that you get through it in one piece.
Yeah, and it looks like he's bringing his mother and father for the crew, so we'll leave that at that and see.
That could be super awesome.
Yes,
it could be super awesome.
And speaking of youngsters doing this, going back to Van Sanchez, I think both of you know he is the youngest person to ever complete an Ultraman, because he did it when he was still 19 years old at Ultraman Wales.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Larry with a fun fact. That is impressive. Here. And then we also have in the 20 to 29, we've got Terumasa Matsuda from Japan. So that's cool that we have someone coming all the way from Japan. And he is going to be crewed by Aiko. His crew chief is Aiko Hibino. And Aiko has crewed before. I don't know.
She's raced before.
She's raced Canada, or where?
She has raced Canada, and she has raced at the Worlds.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah.
So that'll be nice to have her. We have tons of alumni coming out to support everybody. So that's
I believe that's her boyfriend that she's crewing for.
I believe
that's the connection of how he got into this. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So looking forward to having them out there. So that's our 20 to 29 age group, just the two of them.
Let's move on to the 30-year-olds then. There's a big clump of those in the males.
There are a lot of them, and some of them are very fast. So we've got Davis Bryan, he's 30. We'll start with the youngsters. Davis Bryan's 30. Pablo Laprea, 30. Ryan Carlin, 30. Side note, Ryan has declared that he's going to win.
That he's going to win?
Yes, that's what he has declared. Jordan Taylor, he's 34. Another 34-year-old, Travis Rademacher. Then we've got Bastian Whitty. He's 35. Also 35 is Martin Blaise. 36-year-olds, we've got Nick Gillombardo and Patrick Clerkin. And then wrapping it up with a 39-year-old, Jeff Bayer. Now, some of these guys are definitely in contention. Patrick has, I compiled all of our fastest swim times, their fastest Ironman swim times that they all listed on their applications. Patrick's from North Carolina. He had a 50-minute Ironman swim. Very impressive.
I'm actually Patrick's coach, so I know exactly how fast he is, and he's a very talented swimmer.
And you know what's really awesome is when the student is faster than the coach.
Yeah, he's a very gifted swimmer, and he's done a lot of ultra cycling. He's got that experience as well. He's also from Florida. He's very familiar with those roads. So I just know from talking to him, he has no concern with the terrain and the navigation of where the courses are going to be. He's very comfortable with the climate, even though he lives in North Carolina now. He'll be up there with the top group, all 3 days.
That's awesome.
And do you think that his Ironman swim time will translate to the 10-kilometer swim?
Yeah, I think he'll be there or thereabouts. I would say just roughly he'll probably be there with me, getting out of the water. Hopefully I've prepared him for the longer distance, but in terms of endurance and speed, I think he'll be, between the 3 and 3.5 hour mark. 3.5 hour would probably be that would be an easy day for him. I think he'll be closer to the 3 hours for the swim.
Excellent.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then not far behind him, Ryan Carlin, he had a 55-minute swim. He's also another local Floridian. He's from Palm Beach. He's actually racing to support the National Alliance on Mental Illness, as is Nick Gillombardo as well. Both of them are supporting NAMI, which is awesome. Such a good charity to support.
And I'm going to be having Nick on this episode as the athlete in profile for your race as well.
Oh, great.
So there'll be lots more to hear about Nick.
Awesome. Super cool.
I did some research. Martin, I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name. He has done Ultraman distance racing in the past.
Yes, he did the Infinitri in Spain.
Yes. So he's definitely not a novice to the distance.
Yeah. And he was 28 hours at that event.
I also am coaching Jeff Bayer. He's coming from Illinois. So he'll be coming from the cold weather, which I think a large percentage of athletes are right now are coming from colder climates.
Pretty much everybody except the Floridians, I think.
Yeah.
Well, it did snow in Florida this past week.
I saw that. Crazy. I don't know what the weather's doing.
Jeff's a very balanced athlete as well. He's got quite a bit of experience with Ironman, and he'll be in the middle, up towards the front on all 3 days, just with being balanced on all of his abilities.
Awesome.
Yeah, looking at some of these Ironman times for these guys, it looks like Jordan, I think, had a sub 10-hour Ironman, as did Bastian.
Yeah.
He had a 9:21. So the 3 fastest Ironman PRs that they listed, Davis Bryan had a 9:31, super impressive. Bastian had a 9:21, and then this guy named Keller, he had a 9:15. So definitely going to be fun
I
to
thought
watch.
Keller had a 9:08.
I was going to say, is that what I put? Because I think I've gone faster than that.
You put 9:15, so I didn't go check.
I don't remember any of my times, but I thought I had gone faster. But Larry called it there. I think 9:08 is the fastest I've done.
I think I recall that on last year's application you put 9:08.
Could have been. I don't know majority of the times I've done.
You guys all blend together in my brain. But then talking about our 30 to 39-year-olds, as far as run times, Bastion can run. He's had a 3:20 before, 3:20 Ironman run. So that's super good.
Nice.
And then Davis had a 3:30. Now Davis is interesting because he listed that he is fueled by Yoo-Hoo and Red Bull. And so I want to see how that really comes out in the end. Or maybe I don't want to see it.
Or maybe we don't want to see it come out. Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely some really good, strong athletes in that 30 to 39 category.
Well, let's move on to the 40-year-olds then, because there's another huge chunk of people there. As you said, that's generally where the Ultraman community comes in, is closer to that 40, mid 40 range. So tell us what we got in the 40-year-olds, Jen.
Yep, we've got several in the 40 to 49 age group. We've got Curtis Linehan. He's 40. Rick Hunt is also 40. Keller is also 40. So 3 40-year-olds. We've got, I'm going to mess this up, Vladimir Bobarikin. He's 41. Then we've got Doug Ellis and Ryan Toner. He's an alumni. They're both 43. We've got Andres Jimenez Quijano, Baymal Patel. They're both 47. Brian Mende is 48, and as well as Javier Cortez Zaguirre.
That is well done.
Close, very close.
Sounded pretty good.
Yeah, he's out of Chile, right? So he's making a good jaunt to come and do your race.
Yeah, there's we actually have 13 countries represented.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, 10 states, 13 countries. So we've got Brazil, Canada, Chile, Colombia, France, Germany, Japan, Mexico, the Philippines, Spain, India, and Venezuela, and the USA, of course.
Yeah, that's definitely a good spread. I feel like that's probably one of the better ones you've had.
We usually are in like the 13 to 16 country range, I think. So yeah, I love our international athletes.
Florida tends to bring a lot of international athletes to that race compared to some of the others.
Yeah, because
I guess it's just that closest point that makes it.
Exactly. Yeah. They don't have to fly as far. Yeah. And I mean, having the Mexico race is going to be great for everybody down south because it's a little bit closer for them. Although we might miss out on some of the athletes now, which will be a bummer, but hopefully we'll get a chunk of them that want to do all of them. So,
yeah. Well, one of the things that I noticed in this group while you're looking up some of your stats, Jen, is that you got 2 people that mentioned that they were friends, and that is Curtis and Rick. They seem to be fairly close in times as well. Curtis has got a 12:23 Ironman, and Rick is around the 13-hour mark. So I have a feeling there'll be some pretty good rivalry going on between those 2.
Yeah, and it'll be cool if sometimes maybe we'll see them out like close to each other out there. Yeah, I love when friends apply. I love that dynamic of, having them compete against each other, but also having them support each other and having the crew support each other. It's one of my favorite things. So I'm looking forward to that. We also have another pair that are friends as well. And that is one of our ladies that we're going to talk about later. And she is friends with one of our guys that's in the 50 to 59 age group.
Oh, excellent. That's going to work out well then.
Oh, what's cool about them is they got one big house and they are both crewed by our alumni. So it's a house full of our alumni and 2 international athletes.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So
So yeah, I know which one you're talking about now then. And that's what I was just going to bring up as well for this category. You said that Ryan's an alumni, and of course he's got Jeremy Howard as his crew chief. That's going to be an advantage for him, being an alumni
Oh,
and
for sure.
having Jeremy on the team.
Yeah, because they've both done the race. Jeremy has won the race as well, just like Steve has.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan is a very fast swimmer. He is one of our fastest swimmers. He's his Ironman PR is a 57-minute swim, so he's going to be up there. It's going to be fun to see because there are so many fast swimmers. Like, who knows which one of these guys are going to be the first ones to come out.
Yeah, another guy I'll point out right above Ryan, and then right before Ryan is Doug, who's also 43. He's coached by Jeremy as well, and ironically, Doug Ellis is also a very strong swimmer. Mm-hmm. And I had no idea he actually lives in my hometown.
He does.
Reached out, just randomly, like, hey, what are the chances of 2 guys in Virginia in the same hometown doing a race down in Florida? So that's pretty cool. I haven't met him in person, but he is doing the race in efforts for his foundation, the River Ellis Foundation, which I think he's been promoting on social media, and he'll be promoting down at the race. But I think with him having Jeremy as the coach, he's also going to be out in the front, coming out of the water with Ryan, both of them together.
And he's got a very lofty goal on that. Do either of you have that in front of you?
I checked it earlier today. He had posted if he got over 20, somebody was going to add another 10, and he was up to 21 this morning. So he's definitely doing very well, and it looks like his foundation is very active in what they do. I'm not going to speak out because I don't want to misspeak, but it's a great organization.
Yeah, absolutely. What I read in his bio is that the River Ellis Foundation is in honor of his daughter, who unexpectedly passed away at just 2 days old, and that the foundation provides short-term assistance to those who've experienced some unexpected hardship or tragedy. So I'll make sure to put that link in my show notes as well.
Very cool that he's doing that for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
I love when athletes bring charity into the mix, and either to bring awareness or for fundraising purposes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We will be right back. Hello, listener. I love getting your feedback and suggestions for the podcast. Keep them coming at 515ultraman@gmail.com. For those that want to help me promote the show, I suggest that you tell a friend to listen too. Word of mouth is a great way for podcasts to get new listeners. And if you don't mind publishing your feelings, a free way to support the show is by leaving a 5-star rating and review on your podcast app. It's a chance to tell me what you love about the show, and it helps others discover it too. Finally, if you're so inclined, you can show your appreciation for my work by clicking the support link at the bottom of the show notes to go to my Buy Me a Coffee page. Thanks for all of your feedback and support. Now back to the show. Steve, why don't you tell us about your crew? Because I think maybe you're one of those people that stole staff. And you've got the alumni crew.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I decided that I wanted to do this race, Michelle, who is been on 4 out of the 5 Ultraman that I've done, she's always right there with me. She said, of course, I'll be there for you. And then she had a great idea. She said, well, let me back up a minute. So part of the reason I'm doing the 5 races is to bring a bit of a spotlight to the Ultraman brand and really try to highlight the experience, at least from the inside.
Right.
So people kind of really get an idea of what it's all about. They can follow my story and they can kind of see everything that's involved. And it's not so much about setting any records or personal bests, but really just showcasing the Ultraman races. And so Michelle had this great idea to open it up and see if anybody who maybe is interested in Ultraman wanted to volunteer to be on the crew. I've done enough of these and Michelle's done enough of these that we can get through a race, in many different conditions. And we have done it in many different conditions. So as far as who the individual was, we weren't too worried about someone wanting to join the crew that maybe would be a detriment to the team. And so we had Mitch reach out, Mitch Heskett, and Mitch has zero Ultraman experience. We don't know him other than through Zoom calls, but he lives in the Panhandle in Florida, and he actually knows Chuck from many, many years ago, Chuck Kimney. And
the original race director?
Yeah. And so
he's not the original race director. He's the
that's
second.
right. He was previous to Jen. Yeah.
Yes. Sorry. Yes.
Sway and Trung were the originals.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Mitch volunteered to be on the crew just out of his own generosity, and which is really amazing. And we said we're going to show you what it's all about. There's no pressure. We'll show you what's involved. And then Carrie Mandel, who once again she's been on your podcast, and I coach her. She's actually located in Florida right now, and I had to take her off of the staff roster, so she can.
You actually took Michelle too. I get a text from Michelle asking for permission to crew for Keller.
Yeah, I think those are courtesy. They'd already said, "Yeah, we're going to come."
I know. Well, they also know I'm not going to say no.
True. Yeah.
But then you were going to steal if. So there was a possibility that Shane Duffy was going to race. So if Shane raced, he was going to take Carrie. And so then Keller was going to take Ryan Rainier off my staff. So there was this juggle. We all had to wait to see if Shane racing or not, because if Shane was racing, it's going to change everything again.
I think that's the amazing thing about Ultraman. The listeners of the podcast won't have this list in front of us, but we have a list of all the athletes, and the alum are highlighted, and it looks like a Christmas tree, the number of alum that are volunteering their time to come and crew for athletes, many of them who they don't even know. Mm-hmm. And it's an unbelievable, just experience that goes on that I don't really think you see at any other types of events. At one point I opened this up. I'm sure you guys have heard of the Slow Twitch forum, mm-hmm. the online forum, which can be both a healthy place for conversation as well as the opposite.
Yeah.
And I went on there and I invited anyone who wanted to be part of my crew, which was to me, I was like, this is playing with fire, inviting anyone on Slow Twitch to come be part of the crew. And people actually called Ultraman, and maybe me personally, very selfish for doing these races.
Wow.
And to me, I was like, that's exactly what I'm trying to show, is that the people who are part of this race, they want to be here. They're volunteering. It's not a task or a chore for majority of them. But once you're there and once you really feel the vibe that goes on within it, you really get a very different perspective than what it is from the outside. So while it is, to go back, while it is a selfish endeavor to do any type of race, I think the people who show up and help Jen as staff and volunteer, it's a prime example how people really want to be part of this race and these events.
Yeah, and the green that is showing on this list doesn't even count the alumni that are on the staff that aren't even showing on this list. I haven't counted them up this year, but I think we've got, gosh, close to 30, 20 something, 30 alumni that are going to be there.
Yeah.
It's pretty incredible.
Well, I think just in the cruise alone, you're probably getting close to that.
Yeah, true.
I saw one that we kind of skipped over with Nick. He has his paddler is another alumni from Arizona a couple of years ago.
Yep. Mohammed Katbi. He's actually on our staff too. And he's last year we had a lot of great social media, and Mohammed was the man behind the scenes for all of that. And he's going to be doing it again this year. So he can't do it while he's paddling, but once he's out of the kayak, we also, if we're going to mention our alumni, going back to our 30 category, Phil Cuppernell, who's a Florida alumni, he's going to be paddling for Martin. And then we'll get to the ladies, but we've got some more alumni there with the ladies.
Yeah, and Phil's going to be doing a 6-part documentary series on my journey this year for completing all the races. Phil's a very talented videographer and photographer, so he's going to be following me around at each of the events with his camera, and we've got a lot of exciting things coming. If you guys haven't checked it out yet, we just released the trailer to the first episode today on YouTube, and it's it's called First to Five. So shout out to Phil and all of his great work. And he's also volunteering an incredible amount of his time, which is amazing.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, he's also on my staff, and I can vouch. Awesome photographer.
Yes, very talented.
Well, I'll make sure that link is also in the show notes for people listening, so that if they forget the First to Five, that they can go and check that out on YouTube.
Thank you.
Jen, did we miss any of the amazing times that you wanted to talk about? Well, maybe we should start with you again, Steve. I believe, do you not still hold the bike record for the combined biking? Jen's website is correct.
No, that's a question. That's a question for Steve King. But yeah, I think it's there or thereabouts. The course is now, in my opinion, a bit more challenging. It's got, when I set that record, was a little bit flatter. Okay. And Jen has reverted the course to put the hills at the back end of day 2, which,
it's super nice. It's super good.
I'm pretty sure when I was finishing day 2, as I was coming back to the bike path, which is the last quarter mile of the course, Ryan Rainier, who's an alum, was standing right there, and the words out of my mouth were, "Next year, I'm not racing. I'm definitely staff." And that was all because of the challenge of the hills on the back end of the course. And as soon as I said I was doing this race, he brought that to my attention that I told him that. Yeah.
And I can confirm Steve does still hold the bike day 1 and 2 combined record, 11:41:10, set in 2020.
Yeah. That was the year I won.
Yeah. Yeah. And that winning time was 21:49.
Crazy. Just crazy.
Yeah. Steve, let me ask you this. How do you feel about, like, you're obviously going to be the favorite in the race, despite these other people that we've mentioned with fast swims and fast bikes. You're the one with the most experience. You've got the 5 races. Are you comfortable with being the favorite going into this?
Yeah, I'm comfortable with, the outside perspective. I've really tried to, from the internally, not focus on the outcome of any individual race, at least the times. I'm not coming in at peak fitness because I have to stretch this across the entire year. Mm-hmm. So I know what my boundaries and my guardrails are for what I should be able to push on the bike and on the run and my goal is to come out of the race unscathed and be able to recover fairly quick. I tend to recover. I've been doing these things for quite a while now. I can recover pretty fast, but I have to keep in mind that there's very little room for error going from Florida to Arizona. It's only 5 weeks.
Short turnaround.
So, I have told my crew, if something happens, I get a mechanical on the bike, I take a wrong turn, we just stop, we take a breath, we chill out. There's no pressure.
Right.
It's not about speed. It's about completion. But at the same time, I'm not going to hold back. Like, I'm really glad you told me somebody said that they want to win, because now they just put a target on their back. And like, it's just, the competitor in me is going to make sure that person has a tough day or 3 days.
Of course.
But yeah, it's definitely not the number one priority is to win. It's to come in and compete at my best, but also come out ready to rock and roll for Arizona in 5 weeks. If I was really trying to peak, I wouldn't be in the Bahamas right now.
Well, you're not swimming?
I swam 1,000 yards today, so not a lot of volume going on.
And since it's 12:01 a.m. there, you're not getting up at 3 hours to go run?
Oh, I probably will.
You probably will. Crazy. You're crazy.
Yeah. One other thing of note that I saw in here that I know Steve will be grabbing too, and that is with Bimal Patel. He, on day one, will be celebrating his wedding anniversary on Valentine's Day.
Oh, wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
He's got a couple of alumni. He's got a couple of alumni on his crew too. He's got Rohit and Tyler, who both raced with us previously. So he's got, some good experience on his crew. So he's got some inside information from those guys.
And I see another alumni in this category, Caroline Bloom, is going to be paddling.
She is. She's on our staff, and she's going to be paddling for Brian. She comes out every year and either crews or staffs and paddles. She does everything. Fantastic girl. And
plays
an
the ukulele.
incredible athlete. And she's bringing the uke, and there will be a song at the awards banquet. No pressure, but she writes a song for us every year. It's fantastic. It's my favorite part. So moving on to our 50 to 59 category, we've got 4 gentlemen in that category. We have Alessandre Rizzi from Brazil, Ben Nelson. Oh, Alessandre is 51. Ben is 53. We have Jose Fuente Pepe Garcia, he's 54. And we have Ramiro Gutierrez from Mexico, he's 57. That's who Van is going to be crewing for out there.
Mm-hmm. And he's done 2 Ultramans in the past that I know of. I think he's probably done it in Mexico as well, but I just didn't get around to looking that up. But I know he's done Canada, and I believe he's done the Worlds as well. If that's
I was
correct.
talking to Van about Ramiro, and I believe he has done 16 ultra distance races, and he will potentially do all 5 this year.
Oh,
He has the same goal.
Yeah, because his goal is to get to 21 total.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I know in speaking with Van for previewing his race in the past that name has come up. So I have not got the memory of Steve King, but I know that he definitely has a few under his belt. I know most recently the Canadian one he did in 32 hours. He did have a hard time at the swim at the Worlds, Jen, you would know. He had a long swim and didn't finish day one, if I remember that correctly.
Yep. True. But super nice guy. So, when actually Van contacted me, he's like, Ramiro would like to do Florida. This was, right after Worlds. And I was like, bring him. I like Ramiro. Let's have Ramiro come. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to it. And And, you know, we want to help people reach their goals. So if he's going to go for the 5, I want to help him go for 5.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's another experienced racer there in that category as well. And that's Alex Rizzi. He's done the race in Brazil, and he's done that in 28 hours. So there's another contender in the race who has the experience at the distance and, you know, a reasonable time at doing it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that, you know, having the experience of doing the ultra distance, the 320 or the 515, like there's so much that goes into it. That's just logistically, it's not just about how fast can your body go.
Yeah.
There's so much more than that. And that experience, like people who have done it time and time again, they know you can't go out too fast on any given day because you're just going to crush your body.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's an advantage for sure to have done the distance before.
Yeah.
And other alumni that are helping out, Jose Pepe. He's got Leda Velez and Zach Powell, who are 2 of our alumni, crewing for him, and Zach is going to be paddling for him. And that's half of the party palace where they're all going to be sharing a house.
Okay.
So moving on to our final gentleman, 60 years young, Duggan Walker. And this guy is really interesting to me. He has put down a 55-minute swim, which is extremely impressive. I don't know what year he did that, but that is extremely impressive. And one of the things he listed that I found really interesting, he ran 52 marathons in 52 weeks in 50 states, plus DC and St. Croix, and did all of them under 4 hours.
Whoa.
So logistically, to be able to do 50 states is like 1 state per week is crazy.
Yeah. Where's he based out of? Do you remember?
He is, Tampa. He's a local.
Wow. It's impressive.
Yep, very much.
Yeah, that is impressive. And he's got 77 Ironmans. with his best Ironman being a 10:10.
Yeah. He's got some experience.
Again,
wouldn't that be fun?
At 60 years old, I don't know when he did it. It might have been last week, but you know, he's going to bring it.
Yeah, and wouldn't it be fun to have a 60-year-old podium?
Yeah, I wonder what the record is for. Does that go to Dan? Is he the fastest?
Dan has the record for the race.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's gonna be fun to watch for sure.
Yeah.
Moving on to our ladies, we unfortunately only have 2 ladies this year, which is the opposite of last year when we had like a million ladies. But the ladies that are coming are awesome. We've got Jen Yui. She's from the Philippines. She's got a pro crew. First of all, her husband's going to be crewing her, but then she also has the Latzas, Mary and Randy Latza, who have a ton of Ultraman experience.
And they're lots of fun.
They're lots of fun, that's for sure. Randy was just in Hawaii with me at crewing another one of our alumni, Cynthia Bardis, at the Hurt 100, and he brought out the costumes, and so the Latzas always bring the costumes, so that's going to be a fun crew.
Has he got anything new for this year?
Do I, or does Randy?
Does he have anything new for this year?
I'm sure he does. I will be shocked if he didn't. Mary's going to be paddling for Jen, so Mary's very experienced in paddling. We no longer put Randy in a kayak because he located his shoulder that one time.
Yeah, Mary crewed for me in Arizona in 2022.
Yep.
And she did an amazing job. So they're both very experienced.
Yeah. So Jen's just in great hands, and I know they've been communicating a lot ahead of time. So
yeah.
And then so Jen is 37 years old, and then our second female is Nuria Sanchez, and she is 42 years old, and she is crewed by alumni as well. This is the other half of the Party Palace. She's crewed by Fiona Simmelink and Simon Shuri, and Simon's going to be doing the paddling for her. So again, two very, very experienced alumni who know everything there is to know about racing in Ultraman. So both of those ladies are in super good hands. It's going to be fun to watch them battle it out.
Yeah. And it looks like it will be a battle, even though there's only two of them. Looking at their stats, I saw that we have Nuria with a 13:24 PB at the Ironman, but she also has the experience of a Marathon Des Sables. So she's got a little something extra. And then Jen's PB is right near there at 12:41. And she has a
Oh, I've got her at 12:25.
Oh, 12. Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah, they're both very strong athletes for sure.
Yeah.
They both got rock star crew. I mean, that's about as even on paper when it comes to their times and the amount of experience they have for their crew. That's going to be very interesting just to see them, whether they're competing against each other or just, competing against themselves. Both of their stories are going to be amazing by the end of the 3 days.
Yeah, for sure. It'd be fun if those two ladies were close in the race so that those crews could be close together. Because there's going to be a lot of crew fun on this one. There's a lot of really fun alumni crew going out there.
Yeah, it's impressive.
And of course, we are going to have the annual crew contest. I haven't decided what it's going to be. We've been doing a scavenger hunt the past few years, and that's been pretty fun. So we might do that. I can't give up any information because Keller would have the advantage. So.
My crew never gets a chance to do the scavenger hunt. We're moving too fast.
I know you need to slow down. Your crew needs to have more fun.
Yeah.
There's a couple fun facts that I definitely wanted to mention. This group of athletes, they are animal lovers. Besides Mr. Keller, speaking of animals, sorry about I'm dog sitting. I ask people, what pets do you have? Because I learn a lot when people tell me about their pets. Because some of them will say, I have 2 dogs, here are their names. Other people will write me like a book about their animals. Right. It's really interesting. But this group has a really huge variety of animals. I was going to say, Mr. Keller, the veterinarian, they have guinea pig, a tortoise named Taco, and a dog. But there are people that have thoroughbred racehorses, regular horses, lots more dogs. There's someone with a really nice reef fish tank. There's a betta fish. There's cats, and there are 13 chickens. Now I have to give a shout out. I have to give a shout out to Curtis Linehan. Curtis doesn't have any pets, but he has 5 kids, and I think that counts for way more than 13 chickens. So I had to give him a shout out because 5 kids it's a lot of kids.
A few of them have to be feral animals.
Probably, yeah.
Yes.
And then I wanted to test you guys, especially Keller. I wanted to see, I also asked in their application, what's your favorite food? And so we have a tie for the number 1 favorite food. I want to see if either of you can guess the favorite food.
I was going to say pizza, but Larry already said pizza. So, can you give me a clue? Is it a dessert or an entree?
Well, it's an entree and a dessert because it's tied for first.
Oh, goodness. All right. Let's go with, I'll go with ice cream.
Ice cream is tied for first. Good job.
Okay.
The other is steak. We had a lot of steak lovers, just straight up steak.
Glad it wasn't chicken and rice.
And then, no, it wasn't chicken and rice. However, in second place, tied for second place, fried chicken and Keller's favorite, chicken wings.
Chicken wings. Yeah. I think I've had chicken wings 3 nights in a row here in the Bahamas. So.
Oh, do they like them in the Bahamas?
Yeah, they're good.
Yeah, so overall, really great group of people. It looks like we've got, it's going to be a fast one, I think. Although, we always love our backers.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, if you are the final official finisher, you get the Gatorade Award, which
Would you
is
like
a
to
coveted
explain?
award. A coveted award. Well, if you come in last,
Yeah.
you should get a prize for that. And so we came up with the Gatorade Award. There are no alligators in our lake. Said no one ever. There are alligators in every lake in Florida, but we've never seen an alligator in our lake.
That's not what Caroline says.
Caroline is so scared of alligators. She's unreasonably scared of alligators. No, so whoever comes in last, official finisher, they're going to get a special alligator to take home with them. And it's a really cool one this year. It's different from what I've done in the past.
Oh, good. Well,
not that you should shoot for last place, but
at least you're getting something.
Exactly.
Yeah. I want to thank you guys for coming in and doing this race preview and giving the listeners a chance to get to know, obviously, all the alumni and all the racers that are coming and give them a little heads up so that we can follow them on February 14th to the 16th. Jen, what's going to be our best way to follow the race?
Best way to follow is going to be Instagram and Facebook. We're going to be going live. I'm pretty sure we go live on Instagram. Mohammed's in charge of that department, but I'm pretty sure we go live on Instagram, and it might feed into our Facebook page. But there will be posts on both for sure. That's going to be your best way to follow. And then we're going to, the results will be up on the website every night. No, they won't be on the website every night. They'll be on Facebook every night and Instagram every night. And then once the race is completed, they will be up on the website.
When they're official.
And when they're official. And I have a feeling we might be updating some records this year.
Mm-hmm. Huh.
There's some fast people.
No pressure, Steve.
Yeah. I hope she wasn't thinking about me, but we'll see.
I was actually not thinking about you.
Steve, I especially appreciate you coming and taking time out of your vacation in the Bahamas to join us late night. So thanks again for coming, and we'll be watching your YouTube journey to see how this goes. Once again, what was the name of that YouTube that we're going to look for?
Yep. So it's called First to Five, and we're on Instagram and YouTube. We just released the first trailer today. Also throwing it out there, if there are particular things that anybody wants to see us document along the way of the journey, you can send us a message on Instagram, but Phil's going to keep that account active and updated probably every day as we move along. So you guys can find us on First to Five.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. It's been great catching up with you. And for everybody that is listening right now, we've done our wrap on the Ultraman Florida race preview. And just check it out, February 14th to the 16th on Instagram and Facebook. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Larry.
Thanks, Larry.
And Jen wanted me to let you know that the applications are open for 2026 Ultraman Florida. If you've been inspired by what you've heard today or what you've seen at the race when you follow along. Stay tuned. Coming up, I have my conversation with my athlete in profile for this race, Nick Gillombardo. Today, I have an athlete in profile for the upcoming Ultraman Florida happening February 14th through the 16th. This athlete had completed just one Ironman race when he was accepted to Florida, but he knew that Ultra was the path he wanted to follow. He's been a longtime listener of the podcast and has been taking in all of the advice that is offered here. He does have a growing resume of Ultra runs. I'm happy to introduce to you this rookie joining me from the forest city of Cleveland, Ohio, Nick Gillombardo. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Larry. It's great to be on, and I appreciate you giving me this opportunity to share my story.
Yeah, well, I'm really happy to have you on as well. The athletes in profile are an important part, I think, of introducing the athletes to the rest of the audience and finding out what everybody's all about. Sometimes we have people that are a little more well known, they've been around the scene for a bit. Other times I like to bring in new people so that we can be introduced to them as well. So happy to have you here. Thanks for coming along. I want to ask you a couple of questions about Cleveland first, since that's the area you
Sure.
live in. I know you're close to Cleveland at least. Favorite team? Browns, Cavaliers, Guardians?
I am the Tribe all day long. So I am a baseball fan through and through. That is my sport that I follow the most.
So the baseball fan, okay. I think maybe we'll get into a little bit more of that as well later. But and how about the thing that Cleveland's probably most known for, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? What's your experience with that?
You know what? I've only been there probably 2 or 3 times in my life. I think people underestimate not just the rock and roll scene, but the food scene. The food in Cleveland is so underrated.
Oh.
It is an amazing place to visit if you've never been.
I have never been, and it is definitely one of the places that I want to get to. And the other reason I want to get there, there's something else there that I want to see. I'm going to share this with you. Hopefully it comes up on the camera. And this is my holiday sweater. And
I love it.
So right now for the listeners, I'm holding up my ugly sweater, which is the leg lamp from A Christmas Story. And my understanding is that A Christmas Story, the house is there in the Cleveland area as well.
It is. It's right near the Tremont area, and I've been there before. You can drive past it any day. It is exactly what it looks like in the movie. Hasn't changed.
And is that a major tourist attraction?
I would say it's definitely major when it comes to, the Christmas season. That's definitely, what we celebrate. It's Christmas Story 24/7. Another great area for Christmas activity is Castle Noel out in Medina. And they have a bunch of memorabilia from a bunch of Christmas movies, including the van or the RV from Christmas Vacation.
Oh.
So it's incredible. It's a lot of fun stuff there.
Cool. That's cool. I'm definitely going to have to get down to Cleveland then and check this stuff out.
Yeah, highly recommend it.
Yeah. I said in the beginning that you have been a longtime listener of the podcast, and I like to follow back the people that are, following the podcast. So I noticed recently that in the lead up to this Ultraman race, you have been doing some more long distance races, but more importantly, you had a little bit of an incident with a deer. Can you tell us about what happened with the deer when you're out training?
Sure. It was a typical Saturday or Sunday morning. I can't remember which. And I went out for a century ride. That was the plan. And I was coming over the crest of this one hill and approaching a stop sign at the bottom. And I was only 8 miles into this ride. And I noticed there were a couple deer that were starting to cross the street. And I was about 50 yards out or so. So I figured, okay, I got plenty of time before they start walking the rest of the way. Mm-hmm. And they started proceeding to cross the street. And I got closer to where they were standing originally. And a third deer appeared. The third deer and I locked eyes. And it was truly a deer in headlights situation where it did not move. And I remember pressing on my front brake, and it went dark. The next thing I remember is waking up on the side of the road, talking to these, good Samaritans to see what was going on and if I was okay.
Oh, yeah. And did they see your accident or did they come upon you afterwards?
They found me afterwards. They heard it. They were actually walking on a trail nearby, walking their dog, and they lived in the area, and they heard everything happen. And so they rushed over and saw me. And, after talking with them a few weeks after the accident, they filled in a lot of the gaps and told me that, I was repeating a lot of what I was saying. And, God bless them. They really are my guardian angels. Shout out to, Dale and Christy for being there and doing above and beyond, what I could have ever asked for.
Mm. And so you're not aware exactly of what happened. You just figure like you went over the handlebars, or did you hit a deer? Did what happened?
So I don't think I hit the deer. I think that what happened was I pressed on my front brake a little too hard, and I think I went splat right onto the pavement,
Oh.
right forward. I didn't fly or anything like that. I just went splat, and my helmet, my shoulder, my face took the blunt force of it all, and I had a lot of damage, to say the least.
Yeah, and it sounds like you had a concussion from the way you were talking to the Good Samaritans. Everybody listening right now is going to want to know, more importantly, was your bike okay?
It was unscathed. I don't know how it possibly was perfectly fine.
Oh,
Not
wow.
even the chain popped off. So it was perfect, which was honestly a godsend because I don't want to pay for another bike.
So you'll be riding the same bike.
I'll be riding that same exact bike for the race.
Yeah. I assume you got a new helmet though.
Absolutely. Yeah. I was able to see what the damage was on the original helmet and definitely needed a new one.
Yeah. Yeah. So with that in mind, and the recovery from that, I'm sure it sets you back a little bit in what you were hoping your training plan to be. Are you feeling confident approaching the race a couple of weeks away now?
I would say when it first happened, I thought it was done. I didn't think I even stood a chance of towing the line. And it wasn't until maybe 3 or 4 weeks after the accident that I even started training back up again in some manner. And just going out for a couple of training rides on, just my cycling trainer, my Wahoo kicker, and then a couple, runs around the neighborhood, I felt a little bit more confident in testing the waters. And then in November, I really kind of just said, this is my shot. I don't know if I can do another year of this kind of training and, this kind of involvement, because it's a lot. And I can't underestimate that to everyone listening. It is a big undertaking for everyone involved. But yeah, I think that's when it kind of gave me some sort of confidence where I could start back up and really increase my training to where it needed to be so that I have any shot to finish, that race, come race day.
Yeah. And when you say for everybody involved, I assume you're talking about your family or training partners or coaches and things like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's every aspect of life, right? It's, family, work, your own personal, mental health, when it comes down to it. Right. There's a lot to balance. And, if you can't maintain that equilibrium across all those, there's a lot of things that suffer. And maintaining that balance has just been one of those, eye-opening experiences along the way, but it's been very challenging.
Mm-hmm. And you've been training for this now for quite some time. Like you're not the person who's like, oh, I'm going to do a year and get into it. You've been looking at this race for quite a while. When was it back when you did your Louisville Ironman and then realized I need to go ultra? What year was that?
Well, in Louisville, that was actually 2015. And I was able to, do that. And I figured, well, what's next? And for a period of time, I didn't know what to do. I was almost in this autopilot mode for quite some time where I did, a few races here and there, but nothing of that kind of distance. But I knew I wanted to do something more. And there was an opportunity in, 2021 And it's probably a story we can get into with the Iron Cowboy, James Lawrence, where I went to Utah and was able to participate in part of the Conquer 100 event that he did. And that's when I knew I had to hit the reset button for myself and really set my goal for the next big thing. And that's when it really, set my eyes on this race and something that I really wanted to conquer. So 2021 was when I really had my eyes, really triggered on this event.
Yeah. And what was your connection with the Iron Cowboy? Were you just following the journey, or I think you got actually involved with some of the running?
Yeah. So back in 2014, he was actually doing the 50-50-50, which was 50 consecutive Ironman distances in all 50 states in 50 consecutive days.
Mm-hmm.
And when he came to Ohio, I had, the privilege and opportunity to go to where he was because it was relatively nearby. It's actually where I typically train, from trail running. And so I was able to go to the rec center where he was swimming, and I did the full swim with him because I was in the middle of training for my first Ironman. I wasn't able to do the bike portion because I didn't feel confident at that point. But then I was able to do the full marathon with him at that same day. And so that was kind of like the introductory for, my in awe or inspiration of this kind of endurance. Mm-hmm. And then he decided to do another Conquer 100, which was 100 consecutive iron distances in Utah, basically in his own backyard.
Right.
And so that's when I was able to go out and fly out to Utah and participate 3 consecutive days, 3 full marathons back to back to back.
Mm. And so this has been one of the major inspirations for you. And I'm sure that's one of the purposes of what he was doing, was to inspire more people like you to get out and make that next leap, that jump to the next thing.
Yeah, and it was great to see because there was such a big community behind that event. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the best things that came out from that is there were people from all over of all different, talents. Some people I'm sure could, run a sub 3-hour marathon if they wanted to. But the vast majority of those that actually were there were people that were just walking. And it was because he was also walking because, he was in rough shape.
Yeah.
And so, but it got to build a community and meet the people around you. And that's actually when I met a fellow Ultraman alumni, and Reed Brosco, I'll shout out to him. He was training for 2021 Ultraman Florida. Mm-hmm. And so I got to talk to him, and it was like just one of those other aha moments of maybe this is something I would want to do.
Yeah. So then in 2021, you started looking into what you would have to do in order to do it. And I think that's also when you came across the podcast. Is that right?
That's exactly right. Yeah, I was looking for something to motivate me and kind of get me embedded into what this event was all about. And the 515 Ultra podcast was the perfect avenue. I was, there from season 1 and listening in and just listening to the different stories and the different, personalities that are across this event and really the purpose and value behind this race, which I think resonates the most with me. And looking, having that family behind you to really support you in your dreams and your aspirations. And so, listening from day one has kind of kept me embedded into that story, that overarching, family connection. And mm-hmm. it's been a very good, atmosphere to be around.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad that the purpose of this podcast is serving its purpose to you and to others. Not to sound too self-serving, but do you have a favorite interview you've heard, or what is the best advice you've heard that you've already put into place, or that you're like, if I didn't know that, I would have messed that up when I go into Florida?
Yeah, I think one of the most interesting ones was Ferg Hawk. The storytelling that he has, his ability to really just capture the audience is just amazing.
Yeah.
And, the number of stories from Burning River to Ultraman, or I'm sorry, not Burning River, Badwater, it's just remarkable of the people that he's met along the way. And it's very inspiring, but it's also just a wow factor for many. And I would say one of the other earlier ones, and I can't even pronounce his name, but he was climbing all the various summits across.
Makoto.
Yeah, Makoto. It's so funny. I mean, you can't just help but be captured into that conversation because of his personality.
Yes.
So those kind of interviews is really what draws, I think, the audience in. But the advice I would say is, simple things like the handoffs on the bike, or attaching a string to the water bottle during the swim so the kayaker can pull it back in. Things like that I think resonates the most, and things I wouldn't really think of if I were doing this first time, no way, no experience, no background at all.
Yeah. When we were talking about the beginning, and I said that you have you've done some bigger races now because you had done just the one Ironman. I know you were doing a lot of trail races and stuff like that, some 50 milers and stuff like that, and you've bumped that up. When you were meant to say Badwater, you said Burning River a little earlier. I know that's a race you've done. What is the Burning River race?
So the Burning River is a 100-mile trail race. There's also a 50-mile option, front and back half. It's in the Cuyahoga Valley National Park. It's a beautiful area. Again, one of the best parts of, the outskirts of Cleveland. I highly recommend it. But that is brought on by Vertical Runner as well as Western Reserve Trail Racing, Crooked River. It's just a well-put event. It's in the heat of July with high humidity, but thankfully a lot of that race is under the canopy of the trees. So it's a beautiful event, but there are parts where it really, kicks you down a little bit. And I remember for that event, when I was running, I was at mile 60 and my sister was pacing me. And I started to form blisters on the pads of both of my feet. Oh. And for 40 miles, I had excruciating pain on both of my feet.
And that race, if I understand correctly, was also the thing that helped you out after you did your Ironman, because up to Ironman, that was kind of the goal. That was like the thing you were going to do. And so you had that post-race blues of now what? And you were able to use that ultra as part of your recovery from the now what moment of, oh, I did what I'm supposed to do. What's next? And those blues that come on. How was it that served you? And more importantly, what have you lined up for the post-race blues that are going to come after finishing Ultraman?
So the Burning River 100, I always wanted to have a 100-mile bucket list kind of trail race under my belt. I figured that I would do 100K before that and then a 100-miler, thereafter. And I was able to do the 100K Pools trail race this past year. And that was kind of that stepping stone of there's something in my target, something in my sights. And Ultraman was a little bit too far away to kind of bridge that gap. And so I would say that really gave me a pathway to just say, okay, there's something on the horizon, so that I was able to occupy myself and my mind, because I am not somebody that likes to sit still, as I'm sure many of us don't. Right. And Burning River 100 was that next thing after that. And so I've always wanted to make sure that I had that checkbox next to it. But after Ultraman Florida, I say this now, I'm sure, but I definitely want to take a break of at least 2 to 3 weeks of just nothing. I do have some goals on the mind. probably something like a 24-hour event or a kind of a backyard ultra, I think would be kind of up my alley. But for now, nothing too crazy, but
Okay.
I'm going to take my time.
That's fair. That's fair. Although at the finish line, you might be asking Jen if you can sign up for Ultraman Arizona and 6 weeks after that, or come back to Florida right away. Once it's in your blood.
That might be the case, but right now, I am, man, I am on the edge. I am. I will say that one of the biggest things from this journey has been, I feel like I've already accomplished everything before even towing the start line. And I think that's where, the journey is really where you get the most out of it. And I've learned so much about myself and, the sacrifices that I've made, my family have made, there's a lot to it. And I can't underestimate that enough. And I respect the hell out of every person that even wants to think about towing the start line, because if they do, I know what they've gone through, and I can not just express my utmost respect for what they've put in to get to that finish line.
Yeah. And you're talking about your family as well. What's your family situation? I think you have some young kids, young kids.
I do. So my wife, Carrie, her and I have been married almost 8 years. And we have 2 young boys, Benjamin, who's 6, and Leo, who is almost 4.
Okay. And so your journey has been going as long as you've had Leo then.
Exactly.
He has seen the whole thing.
Yeah.
Does he have any idea of what he's seeing? Does he watch you on your trainer? Does he know what's going on?
I think he knows to a degree, because he'll see me on my bike on the trainer in the basement while he watches like Power Rangers or something like that. But I would say that, I'll come up from, the basement where the trainer is, or I'll come back from a run and he'll ask me, did you go for a bike ride or did you go for a run? Yeah. And he doesn't understand how far or how long, but he knows that Daddy likes to run and bike and swim.
Yeah. And does he know that that's not every daddy? That's only his daddy that does that? The other kids, their dads aren't doing that?
I don't think he realizes that. I'm sure my oldest, Ben, he probably kind of understands it a little bit more.
Figuring it out,
yeah. But yeah, it's definitely not common.
Yeah. And will Carrie be coming to crew? Are the kids coming? Do you have someone babysitting them? What's going on in that situation?
Yeah, so my dad and I are gonna drive down there, and my wife and 2 kids and my in-laws and my mom and my sister, who's actually going to be my crew chief, and my nephew are going to fly down, and so my sister and my wife Carrie are going to be my crew.
Oh, perfect. That's good. And in the meantime, all the grandparents are looking after the kids.
Bingo, you got it.
Oh, that's great. Now, I was looking at your information for your work as well, and I saw that throughout all of this, you ended up getting a promotion. So why not throw more work into more training? What is it that you do, and how has that been balancing?
Yeah. So about a year ago, I was able to get another promotion to be finance director of a kind of a major hospital system here in Northeast Ohio. And it's been a great opportunity. But to your point, it doesn't, come with less work by any means. It's more role, more responsibility, a lot more to manage. And so it's been hard. Especially over the past few months is our busiest season with budgets and, figuring out the next year. And there's just a lot of detail that goes into it. Our team has gone through a number of transition. And so really trying to take that in and setting the culture that we want our organization to be has been a challenge in itself. and managing that along with, my family life, but also with the training behind it that is required to do this kind of event.
Right.
It's all encompassing.
And I ask this because we like to get to know the whole athlete, but in the rest of your spare time, what kind of hobbies do you have? What do you do when you're not training and raising children and trying to get ahead in your career?
Well, I did, not anymore, but right now I would say, when I do have time, I enjoy collecting baseball cards. I'm putting together a 1958 baseball tops set that's taken 3.5 years, 4 years to put together, and I'm 85% of the way there. But occasionally I like to do that, or enjoy small glass of bourbon on the side. But yeah, simple.
And why that particular set, the 1958 top set? What is it about that one? Is it related
That's
to
a great
Cleveland by
question.
chance?
So that is Roger Maris's rookie card for when he was on the Cleveland Indians.
Uh-huh.
And so not many people realize that because he was primarily a Yankee, but he was the home run record breaker of Babe Ruth. So that rookie card just kind of drew my love of it, and kind of just wanted to say, well, I got this card, might as well get all the others.
So you have that one?
I have that one, absolutely. That was my first one of the set.
Oh, wow. And so how hard is it to acquire these cards then? Like, is there one out there that is like, I'm not getting that one? It's I can't afford it. It's too hard. There's not enough of them left.
Yeah, so my set is actually graded, so it's not a raw or ungraded card. So they're all kind of encapsulated into kind of like a protector, and they're graded on a scale of 1 through 10. Typically, I have around like a grade of 6 or 7. But there's 535 cards in the set, if not more now. And there's one card in particular for Pancho Herrera. It's an error card where there was a printing error when it was being printed, and there was only so many that they printed before it was actually caught. And so there's very few in circulation that are graded, and that is the white whale of that set.
And what would someone have to pay to get one of those if they could find it?
Depending on the grade, I think one recently went to auction. That was probably a graded 6, maybe a 7, and that was about $6,000 or $7,000.
Oh, wow.
So that is probably outside of my range. So if anything, I'll get a very, very low end one.
Right. Yeah. Well, good luck on getting that set completed.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. Let's go back a little bit in time. What sort of things brought you to triathlon? Usually there's a person that introduces you, or maybe you were good at one of the disciplines back in high school or college or something. What brought you to the sport of triathlon?
So it actually started with running for me first. My high school journey wasn't the best. I wouldn't say it was, severe bullying or anything like that, but, definitely a lot more of like emotional type of bullying. And I just wasn't in a great state of mind in my high school, academia. And so near the end of it, I really wanted to kind of branch out and experience new things. But it got to a point where I was actually at a very low place in my life. And my sister kind of took me out to the Cuyahoga Valley National Park, actually, and we just talked. And at that moment, she had actually mentioned that she had recently done a 10K, the Cleveland 10K, and she challenged me to do it as well. And so over the 2 or 3 months leading up to it, I started training for it. And as soon as I completed that first 10K race, I was hooked. And after that, it was just, what else can I do?
And how old were you at that time?
I was 17 or 18 at that time. Yeah.
Okay. And you say that you weren't in a good place. You had some bullying going on or whatever it is. I don't want to delve too deep into that, but I did see that you're also doing a fundraiser with this race, and you've been posting about that in your Facebook as well, related to mental health. So can you tell us what your fundraiser is? I'll put in a link later for people that want to maybe join in with you, but tell us what it is and why you chose that one.
Yeah, so I'm actually doing a fundraiser for NAMI, which is the National Alliance on Mental Health, Mental Illness. And the reason I chose that is because I later in my endurance athlete kind of career, I guess you call it, I wanted to start raising awareness for something. And I wanted to find something or some campaign or some charity that resonated closely with me.
Mm-hmm.
And because I know I've been dealing with mental, health, throughout my entire life, as many of us do, we just don't really bring a lot of attention to it. And a lot of people don't know that there are resources available to them. It's just a matter of looking them up and really trying to figure out what can I use to find help. And NAMI does an excellent job in providing that guidance, that help, and statistics, and really kind of removing the stigma on mental health issues.
Right.
Me personally, I deal with a lot of anxiety and stress, and this has been an outlet for me. And this is my best way to kind of bring back a little bit, that I've benefited from, and offer resources or at least information to those that need it as well.
Oh, excellent, excellent. And do you have a specific connection, like a web page or a place where people could donate in your name if they wanted to for this race?
I do, and I don't really have much of a social media presence, but yeah, I absolutely do have a dedicated link where I've been trying to post various updates along my journey. A lot of the write-up ones have been a little bit challenging throughout that time as training has commenced. But I've been trying to do various video journals as well. That's also on my Facebook page.
Okay, great. And I know in speaking with Jen earlier in this episode that there is also another athlete who's fundraising for NAMI. And in the past, in season 4, we had Heidi Buttery on, and she was a NAMI fundraiser as well, and she's a major mental health advocate. She has a whole website of all those links and stuff like that you've been talking about. I don't know if you had a chance to listen to that episode or look up her connections.
Yeah, I actually, if I'm not mistaken, I think I vividly remember listening to that episode because it resonated very closely with me. And if I'm not mistaken, I think I actually shared her website into one of my posts.
Oh, nice.
Just to give additional information and guidance for those that are looking for it.
Excellent. There's the Ohana.
You got it.
All the connections. That's great. All right, so we're getting close to the race. What's the thing that you're maybe most nervous about, or what's the thing that's giving you some jitters?
I would say the thing that's giving me the most anxiety are things outside of my control. Whether it be weather or bike mechanic, that kind of stuff is definitely worrying me the most. But I think the day that's scaring me the most physically is going to be the run. And I think it's primarily because depending on how well I'm able to balance the level of effort in the first 2 days, I just hope my legs aren't completely thrashed by the time I have to tow the third day.
Right. Well, you've listened to enough of these to know how to balance that out and not to go too hard on day 2. Get yourself to the finish line without a mechanical, and day 3 is all you. And you've got the trail race experiences now, so I think if you get there, you will get through it in the time allotted, no problem.
I am very hopeful.
Well, Nick, thank you very much for coming to the podcast and letting us find out a little bit about you and your family and your training and your journey. For people that want to support NAMI, maybe they were thinking about doing it anyway, I'll throw up that link and they can do it in your name and help support you in this Ultraman journey as well. So thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you. And Larry, thank you for everything you do for promoting this sport and this family, because like I said, it's been a major part of my own, training and journey and getting embedded into this family. So not even towing the start line yet, and I already feel like I'm there.
That's awesome. I'm glad that's happened for you. And good luck at the race, February 14th to the 16th.
Thank you.
All right.
Hey, if you liked what you heard today, please tell a friend and be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We'd appreciate it if you'd rate and review the show while you're there. Drop the names of the people you think we should interview and we'll get in touch with them and make that happen. Thank you for listening to 515, the Ultra Podcast, a production of 55 Enterprises. Now really, go subscribe now before you forget.